when a person hurts you and you all are at odds, and even when you've hurt them, it gets harder to find middle ground, and everybody's playing a game of chess. Nobody wants to get their feelings hurt, so everybody's playing on the defensive, and it just becomes this constant back and forth, and it just gets unhealthy. And it makes it hard to have those conversations, which is essentially what happened. And it felt better for me to just remove myself completely than to even attempt.
This is Sad Boy Radio.
Ask me, can I love the same?
What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to Sad Boy Radio. I'm your host, Matt, and today we got a special guest in the building. He's a 2023 Summer Smash performer. He's a Sprite Way artist who has worked with MFN Mello, Femdot, NF, the Honey Man. Go ahead and introduce yourself, bro.
What's going on, y'all? It's Ausar. Happy to be here.
Let the people know who you are, man, for the people who are watching and don't know who you are yet.
Rapper, singer, hoops enthusiast. Will definitely put your favorite rapper in the bucket. I do it all, man. I love music. I love creating.
You be dunking on KO or what?
KO has been ducking smoke. I'm not gonna lie to you. He really don't want to see me on the court, but he's been talking about it for like a year now.
I don't know, for some reason, I thought you were the one that tweeted, you guys don't even know, but in real life, I'm only like 5'6" or some shit like that.
Me.
It was you? Oh, I thought it was him for a second, because he's actually like around that height.
Nah, I just lie about my height on the internet a lot. It'd be kind of funny.
We got to go back to the Honey Man. Like, where did this come from, bro?
Flight of the Honeybee is an EP that I put out in 2020. Time is flying. And after I put that out, my homie, engineer, producer, his name is Ro. His father-in-law just referred to me as the Honey Man from that point forward for whatever reason. And that became a running joke. One of the people on my team, his name is Boots. He made memes about it. They just won't let it die. So the Honey Man has been a running nickname since then.
Yeah, I saw the stickers. I was like, damn, I need me one of those, bro. I need
That's
the
hilarious.
shirt, too. What is the significance of Boots to, personally and professionally?
Personally, I love that dude. It's so funny how we met because I went to school out in Champaign-Urbana. I went to University of Illinois. And Boots saw me at a performance one day and was just like, yo, I really like to come shoot for you, blah, blah, blah. We had a music video for this song called Keep On Pushing from my first project I ever put out. And mid-shoot, like there were like torrential rains and it got really cold and we just never got a chance to finish the video. Um, and but I rocked with him so much that we just stayed in contact and he ended up coming to other things that I had and we just kept developing. And Boots has really become a part of my brand. Like, and it's dope because I that's genuinely family to me. But to see him grow and build all of this with me as well on the content side of things has been really, really dope. Um, Comedy is a big part of my brand, and I think a lot of that comes with Boots. He's kind of like the villain in my story a lot of times.
How has he pushed you and elevated your career?
'Cause I think Boots pushes me to be more creative in a lot of ways because his mind is always working, and a lot of the times he shows me that I'm not crazy, right? Because I'll have a little idea, like, yo, this might be cool. He'll take that little idea and expand on it and expand on it and expand on it until it's just like, yo, I didn't even know this was possible. Um, and I think he also makes me comfortable with being uncomfortable. Um, because Boots is a habitual line pusher. Um, but in a good way a lot of times. Like he wants to see what extremes he can go to and how that affects things, and that makes me more comfortable with like pushing those boundaries and pushing extremes.
Your guys' marketing is fucking crazy. Like I told you, it's really the thing that drew me to what you're doing and what you got going on. The first one was the Don't Date Rappers, the whole marketing video that you guys did. Whoever got their bed peed on, that's fucked up, bro. I saw that and I'm like, okay, for sure. I'm gonna check out the song now. Checked out the song. Same thing with Ghosted. The whole concept of being ghosted. Everybody knows that shit. So knowing that was some sad boy shit, I said, let me check it out. But we're gonna get into that shit later, man.
For sure.
What I want to touch on right now is Summer Smash. You just finished the performance with them. I know you had a lot going on. We tried locking in a little bit earlier, but unfortunately we couldn't due to time constraints. Having been backstage at the Summer Smash 2021 festival and being interviewed and just being able to network with a bunch of people, being able to take the stage at 2023, what did that moment represent to you?
I think it was the moment of everything we've been working towards kind of cultivating in a lot of ways. Summer Smash is something that I've wanted to do for a long time. I think this is just the first year that it made sense, right? Where we had um, traction, we were building around other things, like my album is coming, you know? We had already done some really cool things for the year. I want to give a shout out to Elliot Montanez really quickly because Elliot, specifically over at Lyrical, has been a huge supporter of mine for years.
You've lied to him a lot.
I have lied to him a lot about release dates.
You told him the album would be out last year.
Yeah, I did.
I got you, Elliot.
I did. I probably told him that at least 3 times in 3 different years. I also dissed him to get that slot, by the way.
You dissed him?
Yeah, I did. I have a freestyle that I did to Show Me What You Got by Jay-Z. And I essentially said that Elliot was going to have to fight me if I didn't get on the Summer Smash lineup for this year. And then I got put on the Summer Smash lineup. So bullying works. Remember that. But no, shout out to him for being a good sport and really creating that moment for me. I think it was really dope. And my family was there. This is like the second show ever my family has come to. So for them to see where I was years ago when they came to that one versus now was really, really dope.
Did they call you beforehand, though, to let you know, like, yo, I'm going to put you on the lineup?
Elliot told me the night of the gang activity tour at Shuba's. I opened up for Chris. Elliot missed the performance. He got there at the end of the show. And everybody was leaving, etc. I see Elliot dap him up as always. We talking and he was just like, "Oh yeah, by the way, you performing at Summer Smash this year." I was like, "What?" Immediately told like my close homies right then and there, and everybody was freaking out. But we had to keep it to ourselves until it was announced. But it was an incredible feeling.
That's right as fuck, bro.
Yeah.
My bad. I keep swearing. I'm not like you. I'm not built like you.
All up, man.
There's an interview that you did after the performance, and in the interview they ask you, you know, what advice would you give to somebody trying to pursue their dreams? And you say it's happening even when you don't think it is. A lot of the times we do these things that build up small and incrementally, and because we don't see the growth happening right then and there, we feel like it's not. You know, it's just like the gym. You go to the gym every day, and for the first few months, you think, oh man, this shit's worthless. There's no point in me coming here every day because nothing's happening. As time goes on, you start to feel stronger. You start to see, you know, results. Anything you do in life, just like you said, small and incrementally, you grow and you grow and you grow, and eventually you'll reach the point you want to reach. Even for me, doing this podcast, there's times where it feels like everything has come to a plateau. Things are stagnant. There's no real growth anymore.
Mhm.
Even though to you, you feel like, I should just quit while I'm ahead. Like, there's no point anymore. You can't give up because once you give up, it's like, what was all the work I did for? At what point did you feel like your growth had come to a plateau?
I don't think my growth has ever come to a plateau, but I think in moments where I felt defeated, it felt that way. In 2 instances where I did feel defeated were one during that whole instance of after Rhythm and Flow, I just felt really defeated because I was just like, oh, this was an opportunity and I didn't execute and I didn't. And in all honesty, that wasn't the case. And now looking back, I see the opportunity for what it was. It was cool to be able to be like, hey guys, I was on TV. And everybody who was there because they rock with me and my journey treated it like I won, you know? And just like, oh, this is really cool. We're celebrating your win just by being on it. Um, and after taking a step back and seeing it for what it was, I was able to move forward and go, okay, just keep going. Another time was actually when in 2021 I had a situation where I thought I was going to be signed actually. And things just didn't end up working out the way that I thought they were going to. and I found myself kind of in a rut. I had blown through the savings I had because I was like, I'm about to get this label money. I don't need this. um, and the word had kind of already gotten out because we were really late into the negotiations. So I was just like telling my family and telling some of my friends, and then to have to come back and be like, "Nah, it's not happening." That was really, I felt defeated. To have this looming win that I think is going to change my life and change the lives of the people around me, and then to have to come back to the table and just be like it's gone and start from the ground up. That'll make you feel away. Um, But luckily, I have a very, very strong camp around me and a village, and they kind of reinstilled that faith in me, put the battery in my back, and that's how we got this album. To be honest with you, um, and I think I grew stronger from it. So I don't think you ever really plateau as long as you keep going. The trick is to just keep going.
Knowing that you were this close to everything you almost sort of work for, right? It's not the end all be all, but it's definitely a pinnacle that every artist hopes to achieve. What kind of toll did that take on you mentally?
To know that you have the amount of money on the table to at least be set and have your to be comfortable, right? Like I know all I have to do every day is get up and make music. That's it. And everything else is taken care of. There's a feeling of comfort that comes from that is indescribable. It's just like, wow, I've essentially made it. This is all I have to do. I can do this. And then to have to go back and realize it's not there. I don't have a job at the time. I don't have any other form of income outside of the money that I already had saved. Um, I was on unemployment at a short junction, and then that ran out too. Like I just kind of was in the water without a raft, and now I got to go back and I got to find another job, and I got to find. I essentially have to start all the way over. I had plans. The team had plans. Like it was just like, what are we gonna do with this money? Well, this is what we're gonna do for the next 4 months, and we're planning around this. We were planning a tour. We stopped planning the tour because we're just like, oh, the label will take care of it. Now we have to start everything all the way over. But I think it taught me a lot. And I think God has a funny way of doing that a lot of times when you're not betting on him and betting on yourself the way that you need to, right? Because I think I put too much faith, and this is no shot at them, but I put too much faith and investment into what somebody else could do for me outside of like what we could do to push needle forward. And that was on me.
I get that because there's a lot of times where I run into situations where you meet people that provide opportunities for you and they say that let's do this, this, and that.
Mhm.
And it all sounds great. It sounds like, okay, let's do it. But then you become dependent on people. You start relying on people instead of doing what you were doing originally to get that attention from those people.
Yep.
So now you're saying, well, let me rely on them because they promised me. But in reality, you got to continue doing what you're doing and not become complacent. You got to say, okay, let's take the ideas they provided me with and make it work.
Mhm.
They don't need to have their hands in this. But if they want to help out, then by all means, come through, join us.
Mhm.
Let's win together. You know what I'm saying?
Absolutely.
Knowing that you're this close to changing everybody's life and having that taken away, ripped away from you, it's like, where do I go now?
Yeah.
What were your guys' next steps after that?
The most important piece of all of this to me is seeing my people get to the other side, right? I know the ball starts and stops with me. I lead this operation. Like I am at the forefront and I'm the face of it. But there are so many people involved in this process and making this all happen. And me stopping or quitting essentially means that they never get to see the finish line. They never get to see the fruits of their labor return and see the yields. And that'll never sit right with me. So I was left with two choices. It was either walk away or turn it up. And I chose to turn it up. We went back to the drawing board. Essentially, this whole album was made after that situation. And it was such a transformative period because I think I learned who I was as a person. I learned what I was really capable of and what the people around me were really capable of when our backs were against the wall. And I think this is a very accurate representation of that, which is why I'm so excited to finally share it with the world.
The first debut album. We're gonna get to it a little bit later on in the conversation,
Sure.
but going back to those small and incremental changes that you need to make to reach the final destination, what are some of those changes that you had to make?
I had to get more discipline.
How so?
I think for me and for a lot of people, you can't create unless you're in a certain state of mind. Um, for me, I had to figure out what stability looked like for me. I had to get my mind right. I had to get like my spirit right. Like I think a lot of this process came with me getting closer to God and doing things like making sure I'm up and I start my day correctly. Like, am I praying? Am I reading? Am I taking some time just to settle before I start running around for the day? Because you feel that immediate difference. Am I taking the time to sit and study what's going on around me instead of just getting up and creating aimlessly? Because though it's cool for the reps, like, what are you saying? You know what I'm saying? Like, I think a lot of the way that the culture is presented nowadays is about repetition. It's like how much content can you get out? How much? How fast? And that's though I think consistency is very important, consistency with not high quality means nothing. It's like once again, slow incremental steps. If this is how fast you can create making it quality, cool. Stay at that rate until you build up that speed as you keep going, right? And I think I had to even learn that in my own process. I had to get more comfortable experimenting and not just doing what I was comfortable with. Like all of these things were things that I had to learn in that slow incremental process getting to here.
So then for you, what do you feel like was the toughest lesson you had to learn both professionally and personally?
That I can't be perfect.
What created this idea that you had to be perfect in general?
I think I self-imposed it, but also I think there's a certain reputation that I bring in a certain way that people look at me, especially with a lot of the ideals that I have. I don't curse. I don't drink. I don't smoke. I live pretty straight edge in a lot of ways, and I think people have a very specific perception of me. And if I don't live it to a T, I feel like I've let people down. Um, and so I think that also translated to my art because there are so many people consuming it and looking at it. It's like if I don't deliver, I'm letting people down. When in all honesty, I should just be exploring my creative process. This is my art first and foremost. If I'm proud of it, then that's all that matters. I shouldn't be worried about who I let down or who's gonna like it or who doesn't. Um, it's all dependent on me. And it's the same thing in my personal life. You know, my growth is attributed to me. Of course, I should be doing my due diligence to make sure I'm not hurting the people around me intentionally, but I grow at my own rate. I don't have to be perfect all the time. And the people who love and care about me have to have that grace for me as well as I get it together.
Do you feel like there is an extra hurdle you have to overcome when it comes to the industry and having that straight edge lifestyle? Do you feel like it's going to impact your success at some point?
When I first started music, it was a thought of mine. It's not anymore. I got rid of that pretty early because of the people who I've been around. When I first started working with Wyclef, um, I actually had to tell him on the first song that we worked on, hey, I don't curse in any of my music and I actually don't want to be on any songs that have cursing on them. And that was the first established artist I had ever worked with. And Wyclef is a legend in the game. So to have to tell him if I'm gonna be on this song, you can't curse on it, on his song, it's like that's a pretty bold opening statement. But he embraced it. He embraced me. Told me about the history of his name and how his dad was a preacher and how he understood. And having that be reaffirmed for me meant everything. It made it. If I didn't have the confidence already, I really have the confidence now to just walk in any room and be like, nah, it's not what we doing. Um, and people have been pretty receptive to it. I've had a couple of people who weren't, and it's no harm, no foul. It's just I have to stay true to my ideals and the things that I work on because I have to take ownership.
How did you get connected with Wyclef?
He came to my school for a show. In the middle of the show, he was just like, "Who want to get up here and freestyle?" Like four people got up there. The crowd reaction ended up picking me essentially based off of the freestyles, and he was just like, we were supposed to do a cipher at the end, but he said, "Go talk to my people in the back, give them the link to your music. If I like what I hear, you can make an album that I'm working on." Sent it to him, didn't think nothing of it. The next day I get a call and no, I didn't get a call. I got a message on IG from one of people on his team essentially saying Wyclef likes what he heard, what's your number? Get out of class, and then I got a call.
What's your guys' relationship like now?
Wyclef is a mentor of mine for sure. We don't talk super frequently at this point because he be busy. Um, but whenever I do see him, it's love. I think the last time I saw him was like a year ago. Maybe a year ago at this point. A year and a half ago. Uh, we were over at his house filming for this podcast that he does
Man, my boy been in White Clef's house.
in his guest house.
In his guest house. Hey, you still made it inside his property, bro.
Got a chance to sit and shop with him after everybody kind of went to their respective places, and it was a really dope conversation. It's always cool just getting to be able to sit with him and hear his opinion on things and show him music. And
Even since then, even since working with Wyclef, you've grown a lot. And in a lot of your interviews and a lot of your old music, it seems that there's this concept of being afraid, overcoming this mentality of I don't care because you were afraid of certain conversations, ghosted. In the song, you say unsolved issues haunt you, walls I might walk through to solve things we could talk through. And for you, you're really talking about conversations that you wish you could have had, but you didn't. What would those conversations look like?
they would be more vulnerable. I think a lot of the conversations that I'm typically scared to have require me to have absolute vulnerability and to trust that the other person will take what I say with open arms and understand that I'm just trying to solve the issue rather than exacerbate it and make it a bigger one. Um, I typically don't trust people with my feelings or with like, my well being. Nowadays, I do a lot better with it um, because I know I have to. If people are important to me, I have to be willing to put myself on the line because that's pretty much the essence of love. When you love somebody, you come to them bare. You come to them with their best interests at heart, and you also expect for them to have your best interests at heart, and their trust just has to be there. So I try to express love in that way as best I can.
Why were you so afraid at that time to have that conversation with this specific person?
I didn't have to trust. I also was hurt. I think when a person hurts you and you all are at odds, and even when you've hurt them, it gets harder to find middle ground, and everybody's playing a game of chess. Nobody wants to get their feelings hurt, so everybody's playing on the defensive, and it just becomes this constant back and forth, and it just gets unhealthy. And it makes it hard to have those conversations, which is essentially what happened. And it felt better for me to just remove myself completely than to even attempt.
And I know everybody has been through that situation. Me specifically, I've even had conversations recently where I'm not as vulnerable as I used to be. I could come on here and say whatever I want because it's my space. I get to put out whatever I want. And realistically, I don't cut much from the interview. I let it all fly because I know somebody else feels the same way I felt. But going back, there's relationships that you've had with people, and a lot of the times you try to rekindle them, but you're still hurt from things that happened in the past.
Mm-hmm.
And it's not that you're still mad about it. It's not that you're holding a grudge against them and you're trying to hurt them still, but it's a trauma response. It's a trauma response to not trust them like you did. It's a trauma response to pull back from the things that you used to do for them and not do it as much anymore. You want to be able to, but you just realistically can't, which leads to the second verse. Said I didn't care, that was a lie. All of my surroundings, salt and pride. Know I made a mess, I'm mortified, was adding to my own demise.
It's like you said, a lot of times as a response in the act of self-preservation, uh, well, act as if you don't care in situations because it's easier than trying to get to the bottom of things. And you'll just hold on to the emotions you feel from it. Um, and a lot of times when you do that, you really just making it harder on yourself in the long run because those unsolved issues and traumas, they don't go anywhere. They just compound, and sometimes they affect other people who have nothing to do with it because you never solved it before getting to someone else. Um, so yeah, you essentially are only adding to your own demise in doing so.
Hurt people hurt people.
Hurt
That's
people
my
hurt
favorite
people.
phrase, bro. There's always this period where people, you're hurt, I'm hurt, somebody else hurt, and you allow that to impact your next relationship rather than figuring out what's wrong with you and letting the next person know, like, hey, this is what's going on with me. You're like, man, this next person, right? I'm trying not to swear as much, but how did this specific situation impact the Asar we see today and how he carries himself?
It made me more cognizant of my own emotions as well, and it made me want to get to the root of why do I feel the way that I do, right? And how do I rectify this so that it doesn't continue to build into resentment? Because I think if you don't rectify issues, that's what it grows into, especially in a relationship. I think it also just made me more discerning just about how and who I spend my time with. Not to say that that situation was not a good use of my time, because I think being with that person absolutely helped me grow as a person. It just I don't think that we were meant for each other per se. Um, but yeah, I think it just made me a little bit more intentional
Intentional, how so?
in how I show up in my relationships with people. Because I think that was always a point of contingency. Um, just like how I showed up for them. Because you can love a person and you can think that you're doing everything that you can to make them happy, but that's not the way that they would like love expressed to them. Um, so you have to be attentive and you have to see, like, okay, what are they responsive to? Like, what is the way that love is expressed to them that they feel it? So it made me very intentional about making sure that I'm doing those things in the correct way and making sure that they feel how much I care about them.
I think I've even placed myself in situations where I haven't shown up the way that that specific person wanted. And that takes time for somebody to understand. You need to grow mentally to understand, like, maybe this person wants something different than what I can give them. And that's when you got to come to the realization, like, either I'm going to make that change to be better for this person, and not that what you're doing is wrong, but be like you said, be intentional with how I show them I care about them, or you're going to have to let them walk, because sometimes, like they say, if you love something, you got to let it go. And that's for the betterment of the person and for the betterment of you mentally. Now, you mentioned Ghosted is a song where you would remove yourself from situations because you felt uncomfortable. It's a habit that you had where you would run away from situations if you weren't comfortable. Where do you feel like this came from?
I hate confrontation. Uh, I think part of it is my pops is the exact opposite. My dad is a very passionate dude, and that's what it stems from. Like, I know my dad is very passionate, but I've also seen that passion take a turn, and it turn and affect relationships and affect um just the vibe in the room. And I never liked that when I was younger. Like, I would see it and I'd be like, ugh, I don't like the way that makes me feel. I don't like what's happening here. Like, none of that. And so I think I always kind of took it upon myself to be like, I'm gonna make sure that I never get into it with anybody. Whatever I gotta do to be kind and nice and gentle to people, I'll do that. But even in situations where I have every right to be upset, I want to turn it and figure out how not to do that. Like, it's just always something that I've really wanted to do, and I think somewhere along down the line, I confused um being passive with being peaceful, and those two are not synonymous. There's a way to be respectful of everyone and for people to respect you without being passive. You can demand your respect in the correct way. You can also confront situations and make sure that everyone's on the same page in a peaceful way, in a respectful way. And that's something that I had to learn. but being passive was always just the easiest way to get out of it.
Do you feel like it led to you being walked over in certain situations?
Certain situations, yeah, I think so. Whether I realize it at the time or not. 'Cause sometimes you don't even realize it until later down the line when you realize how it made you feel.
Man, that's crazy coming from a sibling of 10, bro.
I think even that because I have 10 siblings, but most of them are step siblings. Still blood to me though. Like I'm very close to all of them. Um, but when my family got bigger, I immediately had to learn how to coexist with people. And having three older brothers that I essentially shared a room with, you either figure it out and you get tough skin or you get thrown to the wolves. It's one of the two. Um, and so that's when I feel like I started building that up, right? Like understanding what my boundaries are and how to express them. But it wasn't until I got older where I learned how to truly wield them in all of my relationships outside of just with my siblings.
It's hard. You got to realize who you are while setting boundaries with people and not being allowed to be taken advantage of. That's why, like, your teenage years, right? There's this moral dilemma that a lot of them have because you want to fit in so bad, but at what cost? Are you going to sacrifice what you believe in and the way you carry yourself so you can impress people? Or are you going to let them know, like, hey, this is where I draw my line? But for you, you face pressure for a long time, specifically when it comes to the album David. It's an album that was anticipated for years and never came out.
Yeah, for sure.
Do you feel like this was a result of your coping mechanism of almost running away from that confrontation, running away from things that make you uncomfortable?
What's funny is it's the opposite.
Mm.
David, initially, when I came up with the concept, displayed where I was as a person and artistically when I first came up with the concept, right? I think as time went on and we continued to work, I was no longer drawn to it and I just wasn't motivated by it anymore. And I stuck with it because I knew it was what people wanted from me. And I was trying to force myself to continue to finish the album when none of it really was resonating with me anymore. And I tried and I tried and I tried until I finally got to a point where I was just like, this is not where I am anymore. I can tell you exactly when that moment happened for me. I was in LA, and I made a song called List. List was the first song that I made for this album. It was so different than everything else I was working on. And I just remember being like, I want to explore this more. And I thought my team would kill me because we had been so many years into making the album. I came back and told Ro first, and Ro was just like, this is where you at. Let's keep it going. And then maybe a month in, I was just like, hey, Will. Will is my manager. It's like, I think I want to do something different. It's not David no more. He didn't flinch. He was just like, do it. That's where you are. Do it. And they had the utmost trust and faith in me to see it through. And I did. And we had been working on David for like 5 years.
What does David stand for?
David is the person in the Bible that I feel like I resonate with most for so many different reasons. Like the concept of first of all, David was a musician. And that already resonates with me. Secondly, the concept of things like David and Goliath and how much faith David had in his calling and in his relationship with God, and knowing that no obstacle, regardless of how big it is big enough to deter him. And that's something that I've always resonated with. For me to move away, you got to show me. Like, I don't care what you tell me. If you tell me I can't do it, I'm going to have to be able to not do it. Like, I have to go there, do it myself, and if I fail, I fail. But I'm not going to listen to you. And that always just sat with me. Even some of the things David struggled with, like David's biggest shortcoming in the Bible was due to like him having an affair with a woman. I ain't never had an affair before, but just for me personally, a lot of my issues for a long time really surrounded women. So all of it really resonated with me, and I had a concept and a project that was all centered around the parallels, and it just didn't come to fruition. And I'm very okay with that now because after we got rid of that concept, we finished this. After working on that for 5 years, we finished this album in a year and a half, and not a single song from David made it onto this project.
David's new shortcoming was never coming out, I guess.
Add that to the list.
And something you mentioned a lot was the idea of working on something that people are expecting versus working on something that nobody knows is coming out.
Hmm.
Touch on that.
There was no pressure behind this album because nobody knew what it was. Everybody was expecting David. I'm like, I'm not even working on this no more. Like, I got a whole nother thing. So having something with no preconceived notions, with no eyes on it, it's the same as there was an interview that Andre 3000 did with oh, why can't I think of his name? Rick Rubin. Um and in the interview he talks about how making music for him is like being a kid in a playpen. Like when nobody's watching, you just playing with the toys, you having a great time. But the moment all the adults come over and look at you playing the playpen, it starts to deter you. Like you get nervous. Why are y'all watching me? And it makes it not fun anymore. And that's the way working on David felt versus working on an album that nobody was looking for.
For you personally, how do you feel like it was impacting you mentally? Because immediately when you came on the scene with excuses, you had the streams built up. So right out the gate, you had these expectations of, damn, this music needs to be good now because you had so many streams off the bat. How do you feel like the expectations that people have put on you have impacted you?
For a long time, expectations kind of ruled me. I think now though, I don't really care as much because I don't think people know what they like. I think people can be swayed and everything is very fickle. I think as long as you create from a genuine place and you're happy with what you create, it'll always resonate with somebody. Today I asked people what their favorite song was from me, and the different types of responses that I'm getting is crazy to me. One, because it's so well rounded in terms of what people are picking, but also there are certain songs where I'm just like, that's your favorite song for me? That song that I recorded as a demo and just put out on a whim, or this song that we made specifically for this one opportunity and you love it? Like that's your favorite one, not the one we spent days and hours creating and crafting to get to this point, but the one we didn't try on. You know what I'm saying? And that happens a lot of times. The one that you didn't try on or the one we didn't try on is the one that garners all this attention. Homies, for example, on I put that out on my birthday a few years ago. I was just doing this thing where I was writing a verse a day. Hayes put a beat, go Hayes, put a beat on his Twitter. I saw it, was like, bro, I need that. Recorded to it and sent it back to him. Ro added some background vocals. That was it. That whole process took maybe 3 hours from start to finish. From me recording it, sending it over to Ro for him to put backgrounds on, it get mixed, coming back, 3 hour song. Almost 500,000 plays.
So then which song of yours is your favorite? Which one means the most to you?
Right now, I'm gonna say it's Poster Child. Poster Child off of my album because it literally depicts my entire story until now. Anybody who has been with me for a while are gonna be they'll hear the song and be able to relive those moments with me because they were there for it. And anybody new who's coming and listening can listen to it and know exactly how we got to this point and be like, oh, that's actually a crazy journey.
It's a crazy song. I was telling you right before we started this, that's one of my favorite songs off the album. So, but that story with Taylor Bennett, that shit's true.
I started going to school with Taylor in 7th grade. I remember like the first week me and Taylor and Thelonious got into it. Thelonious, I don't know if I should say his last name. That might be
Martin?
kind of, no.
Oh.
It might be kind of federal. He's an incredible artist though. He's a painter. We got into it like the first week. For nothing. I don't even know what we got into it over. It was something stupid. And we didn't start off on the right foot, but I remember hearing Taylor and them freestyling at lunch one day. I was just like, oh, they kind of going crazy. Nobody knew I rapped. And so I didn't say anything. I didn't join in. I just was kind of listening because at the time I'm still shy. Like I haven't rapped in front of anybody but my older brothers, and so I'm like, this ain't really my place. I'm just gonna kind of sit and listen. But those were kind of the building blocks because through him I was introduced to Chance as well, like his music. And Chance was the first person I saw do it who was in direct proximity to me, right? Because I just hadn't seen it before. Like that didn't seem like a real thing that happened. It just seemed like the chosen few were able to do it. But to see somebody do it, it's like, oh, this is possible. And then to see it again, actually, what people don't know is I actually grew up pretty much in the same neighborhood as Herb. Yeah, random. I actually hooped with Herb when I was a shorty.
How old are you?
27.
How old is he?
27, I think.
Oh shit.
Yeah. Seeing all of that bubble at the exact same time, Herb would come back around and shoot videos over there sometimes. Like, it was just all around me. And I was just like, okay, this is possible. Like, this can really be done.
In Chicago, there's definitely that segregation of the wards. So I feel like South Side, West Side, they got all the rappers. North Side, they don't got that shit. People don't take their arts seriously over there, except, Steve-O. Steve-O was the first one that I was like, you're from the North Side? He's like, yeah, bro, I'm from Rogers Park. I'm like,
Film from over there, too.
you don't see that on the North Side. And for you being able to see that, like you said, it was something that didn't seem real. It didn't seem like it was within range. Like you hear about it happening, but you don't really see these guys who are blowing up. So now being able to see it up close and up front, like with Steve-O, how you said, man, that dude's out of here for sure. That's the first like artist I've sat down with, and no like shade to anybody, but that's like the first one I've sat down with and was like, man, like this guy's got it. Like it's happening. It don't matter what he does. Like it's up. It's gone. So being able to see that, like that definitely is like I'm on the right track too because I'm sitting down with people who are doing it for real. So man, from Flight of Honeybees to learning how to be more disciplined to understanding yourself and your coping mechanisms. These are all things that now you know. Like the album title, Now I Know.
I now know.
What is it you now know? What is the lesson that is centered behind this album?
The entire album is a journey and a reflection of self and figuring out what matters at the end of the day, right? You hear all these people whose input I value throughout the project, who are best friends and family to me. You hear about the accomplishments that we've garnered on the way here. You hear about the things that I still want and am still looking towards. You hear about my failures. You hear about my triumphs. You hear about things that weigh heavy on my mind. And at the end of the day, it's like, what matters? Do any of these accomplishments really matter? Is it the people around me that really matter? You get to hear how the pursuit has changed me as a person because I think the pursuit has changed me. I think there have been times where I valued what may be opportunities over the well being of the people who I care about most. And in some instances, that came back to bite me. And I had to live with those decisions. Um, and now on the other side of those things, it's changed how I view opportunity. Like, is this opportunity gonna matter if at the end of the day nobody is here to see the fruits of this opportunity? It's like if a tree falls in the forest, if nobody's there, did it really fall? It's like that's what I feel like I learned most throughout this entire process was figuring out what's important to me.
And you hear it on the tracks like Trophies. There's also a bar. I'm not sure which song it was on, but you say that I'm now the person that my homies used to know.
That's in Poster Child.
What did you mean when you said that?
I'll be real with you. It's been kind of weird. I don't think I have accomplished a crazy amount yet. Like I know we've done some cool things. I know it's all built traction, et cetera, et cetera. But the way a lot of people who I've grown up with and known my entire life and now interact with me doesn't always feel the best. Like I've had people who I've seen in my homeroom for 4 years straight go, "Hey, I don't know if you remember me, but yes, I know you." Like, why? Don't do that. Um, and it's essentially a play on like I know with success comes degrees of separation. I know as I continue to grow, there are going to be people who I don't have the same relationship with strictly because of the time commitment. Like I may not have the time or the capacity, and they may not either, as their life continues to take them down their path and mine continues to take me down mine. And it sucks and it's not the most ideal, but that's the reality of the matter. Um, and so that's essentially what that line meant to me. And I hope when they look back through the memories for the people who don't continue with me down through this journey that they positive ones.
There's just situations that you outgrow. There's people you outgrow, and unfortunately, like we said in Steve-O's interview, you can't grow with everybody.
Mm-hmm.
And I used to be somebody that really reflected hard on that, on the fact that everybody kind of went their own way. And I almost hurt myself because I felt like I left people behind. But at the same time, it's a two-way street.
And then also everybody can't go.
Mm-hmm.
Everybody cannot go. That's something my mom talks to me about a lot all the time. It's just about being separated. Because separation has to happen for elevation. And I'm a firm believer in that. And I think as you continue to do what you need to and act in the will that God has for your life, He'll bring the people around you that should be there, that will aid and assist you in your journey or have a similar path to you. That's probably been one of my favorite parts about this music journey is that as I continue to grow, I've been around some really, really genuine people and people who I can call a friend to me, not just like associates.
You guys got a dope group around you, bro. I love the conversation I've been able to have with you. I love the conversation
Likewise.
I had with KO. That shit was dope. How do you feel like that second family that you have created has helped you grow and become the person that we see today?
In any discipline you in, if you are quote unquote the smartest person in the room, you probably in the wrong room. I very rarely feel like I'm the smartest person in the room. I always feel like I have something to learn. I always feel like there's somebody pushing me to want to be better outside of my own inclination to just want to be the best that I can. And it always brings something out of me every time. I think the music I've been making is also a direct reflection of the people who I've been around as well and how they've pushed me to really push the boundaries on what it is I do.
I hope to see you continue to grow, bro. I know you're not going to fail like you failed 8th grade, but shit.
Okay, I'll take that one. It did happen.
That's a good one, right? That's a good one. That's going to be all, guys. Make sure you go ahead, like, comment, subscribe. Make sure you go ahead, check out Ausar's debut album, Ink, I Now Know. It'll be out on July 28th.
That's technically right. It's the 29th, but technically the night of the 28th, which is the 29th.
July 29th. Make sure you go ahead, stream it. It's a dope-ass album. Don't miss out, guys. Anything else you want to say?
A hot dog is a sandwich.
I guess so. That's why he failed 8th grade. But that's all. Sad boys for real. Peace out.
This is Sad Boy Radio.
Broken pieces, who's to blame?